enjoying that. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are we this evening? It's Annie Bennett here, coming to you live in the Home Baking Business Community UK on the Annie Bennett Business Facebook page, and also in the Home Baking Professionals Society. So hello to everybody who's listening. I can see we've got people on. Do say hello. Do say hello or give me a wave. I do like it when people chat. It makes me happy. Just take my glasses off because I'm reflecting. You know, I'm sitting in my little office. I probably, if you watched this before in the summer, you'll have heard me say that in the evening the sun is right outside my bed. Well, not literally outside my office window, but it shines in. So I've got to have the curtains closed, and everything sort of glares and all that kind of stuff. So there we go. But I need to put my glasses on so I can see my notes that I've written. So how are you this evening? There wasn't a live last week because I was in Greece last week. It was fantastic. I was on the east side of Greece in Halkidiki, in a lovely hotel with a lovely beach and a lovely pool and cocktails and all sorts. And me and my daughter had a lovely time. So we came back very refreshed and raring to go. And here I am this week. So this week, I am going to be talking, I've talked about this before. I think the last time was in February. But it doesn't hurt to sort of keep going over it again and to talk about it, you know, on the odd occasion. Because it is something that people find really difficult. And that's when you experience a bit of doubt when running your business, or you have a dip in confidence. So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about this evening. If you do have any questions as I go along, as I waffle on, do pop them in because I'm more than happy to answer them. So this evening, first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the brain works, which you might think, hang on, what's all that about? But actually, if you understand how the brain works a little bit, then it helps you to perhaps overcome some of the issues you might be having with confidence and doubt. So I'll talk about that. And then I'll go on to talk about my 5 things that you can do to try and get your confidence up and get rid of all that doubt and get going in your business. And as always, I have a blog. Oh, good evening, Alex. Nice to see you. There is a blog post that goes with it. So as I say every week, if you're a reader rather than a listener, it's all written down. Hopefully what I'm going to say this evening is going to be much the same because I've got it in front of me. So I'm going to use it as my notes. So I keep myself on track because you know me, I'll just go off on a tangent and there'll be all sorts of things going on. We'll be here till midnight. So yes, so the blog post and the link to the blog post is going to be up in the group. I think 8 o'clock. I scheduled it for 8 o'clock. So if you want to read it, then it will be there for you. So let's think about, you know, running your business confidence. Let's think first of all about how your brain works, because this really does make a difference as to how you deal with things and how you approach things. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to be sort of very basic. So just excuse me if you know all this already and you've heard all this, but it doesn't help to go over it. Basically, the brain has got 3 main parts to it. There's the little bit of the brain at the back at the bottom is it's got a number of names. Actually, people call it all sorts of things. But it's our like instinctive brain. Some people call it the reptilian brain. It's called the lizard brain, the primal brain, the caveman brain, sometimes even the dinosaur brain. And that part of the brain is to do with instinct. Now, you might have heard of the phrase fight or flight. Most people have heard of that, or fight, flight, or freeze. Well, that that comes from this part of the brain, this reptilian brain. So once we know how this part of the brain operates, it does make things a little bit easier to understand when you're dealing with things going on in your business. So this part of the brain is the instinctive brain. It's to do with survival. So if you are feeling hungry or thirsty or cold or worried or feeling vulnerable or threatened in any way, it's that part of the brain that is trying to protect you. It's trying to get you out of this situation. So it gives you messages, get out of there. This is the fight or flight thing. Do something quick, get out of this situation because you're threatened. Okay. Now, as a primary teacher, if you're a primary teacher or work with children anyway, the chances are you know about this, because it's really understood now, not so much when I started teaching 100 years ago, but it really is now, that if a child comes into a classroom and they've not had breakfast, or they've forgotten their jumper and they're cold, those kind of things, then they find it much more difficult to learn. Because their brain is going, I'm hungry, get me food, or I'm cold, I need to warm up. So our brain takes control of things. Okay. Now, as we're evolved humans, which we are, we have two other parts of our brain, and the sort of the newest part, if you like, the part that evolved latest, is the front, the big bit at the front, and that's the rational brain. The neocortex is the rational brain. And we now are able to use that part of the brain to realize that, we're not going to be flattened by a dinosaur, or, because we could say, well, actually, that's not very likely, is it? So when something goes wrong in our lives, with anything at all, or with our businesses, it's that reptilian brain that kicks in first and says, oh, you're in danger. I can sense threat. Let's get you out of here. So when you have a doubt, something's gone wrong in your business, or you feel threatened or upset, then that is what's happening in your brain. Your brain is going into survival mode, and it's trying to protect you. It's trying to get you out of that situation, which is why when something goes wrong, your first thought generally is, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get out of here. I want to stop this. That is why that is one of your first feelings, because your brain is protecting you. Okay. Now, because as I just said, because we're no longer cavemen, most of us aren't anyway. I could probably think of some people that still are a bit, but anyway, we're no longer cavemen. Our rational part of the brain, which in my blog I've called the hang on a minute part, it's that bit that goes, oh no, hang on, we're not in danger. We're not in imminent danger of, being eaten by something or falling off a cliff or whatever it is. And our rational brain can think through things if we let it. If we allow our reptilian brain, that fight or flight, to consume our thoughts, then you're going to get I don't want to do this anymore. I want out. This was a stupid idea. What was I thinking? All those kind of things. So if you just understand that when you have doubts, it's your brain trying to protect you, then it does make things a little bit easier to handle. You think, oh, okay, it's all right, brain. I'm not in any danger. We're going to sort this out. We're going to deal with this. Okay. So once we understand that, we can then think about, okay, when something goes wrong, I know I'm not in imminent danger of being eaten by a dinosaur. I've told my brain that. So I've calmed my brain down. I've told it everything's okay. But your rational brain wants to try and sort out the problem. So here we come to my five tips that I can help you. Now, if you've listened to my lives before, particularly, I'm sure it was February, I've gone through these before and they're on my blog, but it really doesn't hurt to go through them again. So 5 tips for you. So the first one, which is one that I often come back to, and it's a really useful one to think about occasionally, is know why you have a business. Okay, think about why you started up in the first place. Now, for a lot of you, it might be, well, I need the money. Okay, that's a valid reason. There's nothing wrong with that at all, that you need more money. Okay, so that's your why. Okay, and you don't have to think about that in a sort of desperate, oh my God, I need the money. You can say, okay, I started this business to make a profit, and so this is what my rational brain is going to help me do. Okay, you can think about it calmly, and then you can put things into place that will help you do that. Okay. So think about your why. Why did you start it? It might be that, what else did I put on? Oh yeah, you perhaps, you've got small children and you want to be a good role model to them. You want to show them that, being self-employed is an option. You might want to be doing that. For me, my why was that I didn't want to be employed anymore. I'd been a teacher for over 30 years. I didn't enjoy it anymore. I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to work for myself, and I wanted to, because I'm a bit of a control freak, to tell you the truth. So I wanted to work for myself. So that's my why. So when things go a little bit awry for me, I think back to, actually, Annie, you don't want to be employed. You don't want to go and get a job. That's not what you want to do. You would be miserable if you did that. So let's work out how we can get across this, get over this problem that we've got, or this challenge that we've got. Okay. So that will hopefully give you focus. Right. Yeah, this is why I did it in the first place. This is why I'm going to sort it out. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is something I'm always banging on about, to the point probably of annoyance with some people. And that is believing that failures and mistakes are learning opportunities. I can't emphasize enough how important that is, that we learn by making mistakes. If everything goes right for us, then we don't have the memory. Nothing goes in our memory as to necessarily what it was we did to make it right. And then to repeat that success is perhaps a bit more difficult, because we haven't got any strong memories in our heads. When you make a cake and something goes wrong, that then puts a really strong memory in your brain, and you think, oh my goodness me, I won't do that next time. And then next time, you know not to make that mistake, so you've upped your skill level. And that's an absolute, you haven't found it out by accident. You haven't done it right by accident. You've done it by design, because you know that what you did last time didn't work, so this is going to work. Sometimes you have to try a few times to get something right, because that's what practice involves. But eventually, you get it right. When I first started making sugar flowers, oh my Lord, I was quite proud of them actually, but I look back and I think, oh my goodness. And it took me years of practice and, investing time and money into learning how to do it. And now I do flowers that look like flowers, So except when things go wrong, yes, it's annoying. You can be cross and you can be angry for a little bit, but don't let it consume you. Think, right, okay, what am I going to learn from this? Turn that negative into a positive and think, right, what are the positives I'm going to take from this? What am I not going to do next time? Or what am I going to do next time after this thing has happened? Okay. I know that many of you in the group talk about, oh, how do I respond to this customer? This customer has said this or done that. And I sometimes chip in, and as some of you do, what's in your terms and conditions, and my terms and conditions have really developed over the years because of things that have gone slightly wrong. So I think, oh, right, okay, I must put something in my T&Cs about this because I don't want it to happen again. And that's how we grow. That's how we grow our businesses. And then once you've done your learning, You've made it better next time. Don't beat yourself up. Put it on the shelf. That was my lesson that I learned, and I'm going to move on now. Okay, if you keep coming back and beating yourself up about something, then that's lost energy. It's wasted energy. You don't want to waste energy. You want your energy on positive things. Okay. So that was number 2. Number 3. There's a bit of a tough love coming up with number 3. Number 3 is to do with knowing your worth. Okay. Knowing that what you do is worthy and that what you produce is of a high standard. Okay. And that what you give to the customers is of a high standard. Now, if you worry that things aren't of a high standard, then do something about it. Sitting there and saying, oh, I'm no good at this, oh, I'm rubbish at that, that's not going to get you anywhere, is it? So pinpoint what it is you want to get better at and get better at it. And the only ways you can get better at something is investing either time or money, or ideally both, and learning, practicing and learning. I'm always saying this. People that are at the top of their game haven't got there just by having an innate, I don't like to use the word talent, actually, because I'm not a big believer of talent. You know, a baby, you know, you're not born as a baby knowing how to smooth coat a buttercream cake. You know, babies aren't born with that knowledge. It's what's picked up along the way. An Olympic gold medalist, you know, the general phrase is they've done 10,000 hours to get that gold medal. Yes, they might have a talent. Someone might have spotted that they've got an aptitude for something, but unless they put the work in, they're not going to get that gold medal. And it's the same for us as a business, a skill business like we have. Unless you put that work in and go wrong and make mistakes and get cross and throw cakes across the room, and be determined to actually make it better, then, you know, that is the way to improve. So, you know, when you're looking online at cakes, I mean, I do this all the time. I look at wedding cakes, think, oh, wow, that is brilliant. I'd love to be able to do it like that or have that skill. And there are some things I've sort of got on a list somewhere of things that I really want to learn how to do. And then when I've got the time, I think, right, I've got so many days or weeks or whatever, I'm going to really buckle down and really have a go and nail that skill. So, you know, when you make a cake and you think, oh, it's no good. Oh, everyone pity me, it's no good. I really can't be doing with self-pity at all. If you think it's no good, then do something about it. Sorry, tough love. It's no good just wallowing and saying you're no good. Do something about it. Okay. Then you can get that confidence that you need, which makes you resilient, and it gives you the armor. I always call them Wonder Woman bracelets, but obviously men don't have Wonder Woman bracelets. Only women have Wonder Woman bracelets. Because if you've got that knowledge that actually, yeah, I'm good at that, I can do that, what I've produced here is good, then even if someone does come along and say, oh, well, I don't like that, you can say, your opinion. You know, and I always warn is too strong a word, but I always ask people to be wary about relying on people around you, or, you know, your support network. Don't rely on them for your confidence. So don't rely on, you know, your partner, your children, your parents, your relatives, your friends. Don't just rely on them to tell you how wonderful you are. Because if you don't believe it yourself, it's going to be no good at all. Okay. You've got to know that you're good without all those people telling you. So that if someone comes along with a different opinion to you, you can say, Well, I don't think so, actually. And it's as simple as that. Okay. No, I'm not saying it's not nice to have people around you saying, oh, that was lovely, that was wonderful, that was great, because human nature, it's it's our instinct. Again, it's that reptilian brain saying, oh, people are pleased with me, because part of our cavemen thing is that we're people pleasers. That's quite an instinctive thing. We like to please people, we like to make people happy. But if you rely on that every time you make a cake, you rely on your partner to say, oh, that's wonderful. What happens if they're having a bad day and they just sort of go, like that? What happens then? Do you crumble and say, oh, it must be no good then? Because that's no good in business, is it? Because if you think back to number one, know your why, and your why is you want to make a profit, that's not going to make you a profit, is it? Believing that you've got to have your self-worth. So you've got to know your worth. Okay, so a bit of tough love there, but it's quite important. Number 4, we've only got to number 4. I shall not sidetrack too much as we go along. Number 4, only compare yourself to yourself. I think a lot of people lose confidence or have doubts when they see what everyone else is doing and they think, oh, I'm not as good as them. Oh no. Which is, again, it's the caveman brain kicking in again. It's your survival instinct. But the only person you should be comparing yourself to is you. So what you need to do is, if you feel perhaps intimidated or threatened is probably too strong a word, but you know what I mean, by someone else, what they're doing, reframe that, turn it around, and be inspired by what they're doing. Aim to be or produce what they produce. Now, it doesn't mean copy, every single thing that they do, but be inspired. Okay. So if a competitor has, 10 times as many followers on Instagram, for example, use that as sort of a battery to your inner self and say, right, okay, let's look at their account. Let's see what they do that I'm not doing. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Look at how they talk to their audience. Look at the kind of pictures. Look at the reels that they do. Look at how they do it. And then put that into your own style for your own business. Okay, so be inspired by people that are better than you. Don't be intimidated by them, because that's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's how you climb the ladder. You're here. This person is here. Okay, so let's do that step to get there. Let's do that step to get there until we're up there with them. Okay, and then, so rather than comparing to other people, compare yourself to you. So keep looking back. Usually in business, I always say don't look back, but in this instance, it's quite important to look at what you were doing 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, and compare yourself to yourself. Because the chances are you're going to be quite impressed if you put 2 pictures. I mean, often people in the group, they put, oh, this was the first cake I ever made, and look at what I'm doing now. It's like, wow, look at that. Brilliant. Because if you're doing all the other things I was talking about, you should see a real progression. You should see real growth there. And if you can see that, be proud of yourself, because that's what should be happening. Okay. So don't compare yourself to others, be inspired by them, and compare yourself to you. Look at your progress that you're making, and also have goals. So look into the future. What do I want to be able to do in 6 months' time, in a year's time? What skills do I want to have? What do I want to have perfected? And then you can have something to aim for. Okay. And we've finally got to number 5. Now, number 5, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. But number 5, the 5th tip I have, is be informed. Get all your facts straight and your details straight before you have doubts about something that's happened, or you lose confidence about something that's happened. Make sure you've got all the facts there. And I shall give you a little story to tell you what this is about. So, as a lot of you know, I do wedding cakes. And as part of that, I do online consultations. And if they request it, I send out a postal box of tasters. Okay. And in January, I usually do one a month. So in January, I sent out, I think I did about five different taster boxes. And I sent them out. And then a few days later, about a week later, I had a message from one of the brides that I sent the box to, who said, "Oh, I'm really disappointed. The samples were really dry. They didn't really taste very nice at all. And we're a bit disappointed, to be honest." And I thought, oh, my first thought was, that stomach sinking thought. Oh, no. But then I thought, right, okay, well, let's gather the facts here. Let's try and get a bit more information. So I asked her a few questions. I said, well, when did you get the box? Actually, it turned out that I think I'd put them in the post box on the Thursday. She'd got them the following Wednesday or something ridiculous. So everyone else that I'd posted got them on the day after I post, which is usual because obviously I do first class post. But somehow hers had been delayed and she hadn't got them for another 5-6 days. So when I realized this, I said, oh my goodness me, I posted them last Thursday. They've been sat around. They're not going to taste very nice. I'll send you another box. So I did that. And as it turns out, her wedding was a week ago on Saturday. It was the last one I did before I went on holiday. And she couldn't have been happier. 5-star reviews. She called my cake a masterpiece. Delicious. Everyone loved it. So on and so forth. So if I'd just taken her initial message and thought, oh my God, I must be rubbish then, and gone and curled up in a little ball and cried, then, everything that else that happened after that wouldn't have happened. So because I know that my cake isn't dry and horrible and all that kind of stuff, I know that there must have been something else that went wrong. And I asked some questions, I investigated. And in fact, what I'm going to be doing now, I didn't do it on the last box, but I'm going to actually put the date on the box saying I sent this on, so that if it is delayed in the post, they can then see that, let me know, and I'll send them another one. You see, everything is a learning opportunity. So there we are. So those are my five things to do. And it's all to do with reframing messages that your brain is giving you. And the reason your brain is giving them to you is that it's trying to protect you. It's trying to make you survive. It's trying to get you out of a vulnerable position because it senses danger. That's basically what it is. So next time something happens or you're feeling down, I know lots of people at the moment are saying, oh, I'm getting no orders. I've been posting this since April and I've got no orders. Well, actually, 2 months. Have you built an audience? Have you got a following? If not, learn how to do that. Find out how to get a following. Find out how to get your name out there. Okay. Find out how to grow your Insta or Facebook or however it is you do it. Because unless you've got a following, no one knows about you. No one's going to buy from, if they don't know about you, then they can't buy from you, can they? So think about all these things. If you're getting no orders, ask the people that do get orders, what are you doing? What is it that you're doing that I might not be doing? Okay. You might get lots of suggestions that you've tried and didn't work, but hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. But you might get some, okay, I'm not doing that. Perhaps I'll try doing that. Okay. Be determined, be resilient, and persevere. If you do those three things and learn, soak up knowledge along the way, then you really can't fail. And I really, really believe that. So there we are. That's quite a deep, intense one this evening, wasn't it? My mindset live. But I really, truly believe everything that I've said this evening. I think there's a lot of things to be said about, trying to train your brain to stop tricking you into believing things that aren't actually true. And once you've cracked that, then the possibilities are endless. So there we are. So I will leave it there. Oh, it's about half an hour. I'll try and keep it to half an hour. I just realised there's a sort of shaft of sunlight on my head. That's better. So if you do have any questions, or if you're watching this on replay, do let me know if it's helpful, because I do like to know if my waffles are useful. Next week, I believe I'm doing a demo next week, so we're back onto cakey things, and I think I'm covering cake boards. So a few hints and tips about covering cake boards. So if you want to know how to do that, come and watch. I'll give you a few tips on that. So there we go. So in the society tomorrow, we've got the Lambeth method training. I've got everything prepared downstairs. So people in the society, if you are about tomorrow morning at 10, I shall be on the Zoom to be doing that with you. The rest of you have a lovely week. Well, everyone have a lovely week. Have a lovely weekend. Let's hope this nice weather stays. And I will see you next Wednesday evening. All right then, my lovelies. You have a good week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.